What is up, homies? Welcome back to another episode of the CzechXicans podcast. Hope you're all having a fantastic Thursday. Nice to be here. Excited to be here. We also did just put out our Uncut reaction for this week's episode of The Acolyte, and I put up my reaction of The Acolyte on Patreon as well.
Yeah. Hell yeah,
So
brother.
if you're
For last week,
interested-
for episode 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Hector. Yes, Hector. They know.
He's making sure for clarity.
Okay.
Hector's being ultra clear.
I always just assume, and this is stupid of me, I always just assume that every single video we've ever done, that there's some new beautiful dumbass just coming in for the first time, like, what? Who are these guys? What's this? Like, and I'm talking to them, like, hi, welcome. This is what we do. But everybody here
I don't know who
knows.
these guys are, but I really like them. I like the cut of their jib.
They're pretty
Hey, these-
all right.
Hey,
Yeah.
these guys kind of look the same. I wonder if they're related. I'm going to keep watching and see what they say.
Oh my God. The amount of times we get those comments. Jesus Christ.
Every day. Every day.
Jesus Christ on a motorbike.
CzechXicans. Pretty cool. Don't know what that means. Let me see what they say. I'll keep watching.
Oh God.
CzechXicans. Interesting.
CzechXicans.
Is it like
Good
Cheez-Its?
stuff. A lot of Cheez-Its.
What's up, guys? How are you?
What's up? Oh, just chilling.
Yeah. Adam, this is your first stream back after vacations and work
Yeah.
trips. You've been a busy man.
I
my
didn't
friend.
take any vacation, but I did take a work trip.
Yeah, I mean, like the other vacation and the work
Hey,
trip.
hang on a minute. I
Yeah.
saw a lot of pictures of some nice bars and pubs on this work trip.
And-
What are you talking about? You
and
didn't take any
beer and bread.
What did you think? What did you think I did after work? You think I just went to my hotel and cried?
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
How was it, man? How was it? How was Kozel? How was the beer? How was the
Oh
food?
man, it was really good. Surprisingly, Prague was not as packed as it usually is this time of year. I don't know what
Interesting.
that had to do with. I know that there was Euro Cup was happening at the same time, so I don't know if a lot of people were in Germany for that, or if maybe people were waiting until later in the summer to go. I'm not totally sure, but it was still busy, but it wasn't as crazy as what I'm kind of used to in that time
Right.
of, that part of June. But it was great. The weather was beautiful. It wasn't hot and humid like I was hoping it wouldn't be. It was really, really nice weather, so it was cool. But yeah, so I was there for a job. I was on set for let's see, I left on Sunday, got there on Monday night. So Monday was a complete shot. I was completely shot. I didn't do a thing.
Right.
Tuesday,
Right.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday were all basically like set days. We worked like 8-hour days. So after work, after we were done shooting, I'd be able to I stayed local to where we were. So I went to just like some local bars and restaurants to get some food. Saturday was really the only full day that we had off to kind of just run around Prague and see stuff. And then Sunday we came home. So it was
Nice.
really short, but
And-
it was really cool.
I think the special thing too is that you spent your birthday out there. Like, when's the
I
last
did.
time you spent your birthday out there?
2017.
Jeez.
Wow.
My 30th
Okay.
birthday.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So it was
Did it
cool.
feel good to be
Production team got me some treats for my birthday, so it was really nice. It was
Nice.
really cool.
Nice.
They
That's
took
cool,
they took
man.
care of me, so it was
Well,
fun.
I think we should also say happy birthday on stream, because happy belated
Yeah,
birthday.
happy birthday, man.
Thanks.
Happy belated.
Because
Are you
I'm
yeah.
37. What?
Oh.
you had your 30th
How cute.
and then now your 37th. Are you planning to do your 40th in Prague also? Are you planning to do your 50th, your 60th, your 70th?
Yeah, that's actually my friends text me and they were like, "Hey, should we go to Prague for your 40th in 2027?" I was like, "I'm
Hell yeah.
down.
Hell
Might
yeah.
as well."
Mhm.
Might as well.
It's
I'm
not,
totally
I've
down
heard
for
worse
it.
ideas. I've heard
Yeah.
worse ideas. So
Yeah, seriously, it would be a lot of fun. And like at that point, a lot of my friend group from my childhood, they all have kids. So they're just going to be like, it's going to be a very different type of trip because there's going to be kids running around everywhere, but this will be a
Well,
lot
I
of fun.
remember you telling us about pre-kid trips to Prague.
Yep.
Y'all were going wild.
Oh yeah.
Y'all were going wild.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
Sleeping 3 hours a night, going to the club.
Adam, those friends of yours, they can leave those kids at home. You know that, right? They can leave their asses at home.
They got babysitters.
And I'm sure they
you know
would.
that?
So exactly, or
They got
grandparents or
grandparents.
something,
Yeah.
aunts and uncles.
Yeah.
That's what they're for. Yeah. Or I guess you're just gonna have to meet them where they're at, and you're gonna have to pop out some babies, right, Adam? Boom.
No, either or.
Boom. Pop out some babies out of your 2-bedroom apartment.
There are worse things.
There are worse
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
guys. I thank you so much for doing this episode tonight. We're delayed. We couldn't do it last night, but we're doing it Thursday, not our normal day.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I straight up stole this idea from the wonderful Dan Merle, friend of
He's your
ours,
friend,
friend of the
right?
channel.
He's a friend.
Oh,
I don't think I've ever
absolutely.
met Dan in person.
Oh, I feel like you must have
Yeah.
at some point crossed paths with
Maybe.
all the various
Maybe.
stuff that we do. Adam, you know Dan, right? You
Yeah,
spent
I
time
worked
with
at Screen
Dan.
Junkies with him.
Absolutely. So he's a class act all-timer. He had a great video on his YouTube channel that I watched and I very much enjoyed, even if I didn't agree with everything he said. But I thought this is such a great subject matter. It's a great topic. It kind of ties into the fact that there's a Star Wars show happening right now, but it's not just us talking about the
What, there
Acolyte, which we've
is?
already been doing. Yeah, it turns
Whoa.
out.
Whoa.
Yeah, the worst one ever made, apparently. Yeah.
Who would have thought?
According to little babies. But Dan had a great idea, which I wanted to open it up to you guys. So we're completely stealing the idea, but we're also giving him credit and saying, if you haven't checked out his video yet, which I think is something along the lines of like what I would do if I ran Lucasfilm as a hypothetical, go check it out. We're going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about the wonderful company Lucasfilm and all of the joy that it has brought us over the years. What would we do if we worked there, if we had any kind of a green light power, if we had any kind of a say in their plans and shaping their stories? Not just Star Wars either. I want to remind you guys, Lucasfilm is also Willow and Indiana Jones. So I have a bunch of ideas and things I'd like to do. I'm going to kick us off with a comment from Senator Super Chat, $2. Senator says, going to be late, but you know how I am with Tradish. Heart emoji. Thank you so much, Senator.
It's not a complete show without Senator in the chat. So
That's right.
Absolutely. And if anybody
There we
watching
go.
right now, if you guys have your own pitches, let us know in the comments. We're more likely to see them if it's a super chat, but don't feel pressure. You don't have to do nothing. But I'll open it up to you guys. I'm already seeing some good stuff in there in the chat. I'm already seeing some good stuff. Adam, you're up first. What would you do? One thing, and we'll bounce it around.
Man, that's a
one
very
of
loaded
many.
question.
One of many. One of
Yeah,
many.
there's so many things
this
that I
isn't
would
like
do.
the end all. This isn't the
But
end all.
I
Answer.
think-
One thing of many. First thing.
I know that they already kind of have this, but I think I would find a way to even further unify the story, movie, TV groups.
Okay, interesting.
Like I know
Yeah,
they have,
You
I
mean
mean,
like
I
the
know they have
actual
a little bit of
production
like a
groups?
yeah, like I know they have something that's kind of like Marvel Parliament where they sit down, they
Sure.
break story on everything. It seems like they do have people that they kind of can fact check at Lucasfilm of like, does this contradict anything? Does
Right.
this, take place at another time period that we don't know about? But I
Adam's
think
dream
now,
job.
especially now with Dave Filoni being the chief creative officer, I think
Right.
it would be good if there was maybe a little bit more unity or a little bit more I don't know. I think that because the reason why I'm pitching this is because I feel a little bit like, and this is not too uncommon in the other universes, is that sometimes there feels like there can be a little bit of separation between all the different projects
Yeah.
that are happening.
Yeah.
Marvel seems to be the only one that I feel like it's always under one roof, and it's Kevin Feige and Marvel Parliament always having their hands on. With Star Wars, it feels a little bit like, well, Filoni and Favreau are doing their one thing. Leslie Headland's doing something else over here. John Watts is doing Skeleton Crew, and then there's maybe things happening with James Mangold and other stuff. I would like it, and maybe this is the case, and we are just not aware of it. I would like to see something that's a little bit more of like a creative pool of people that are all working on these things
Interesting.
together.
Right,
You know,
right.
for a second, it did feel like and also this is tricky because what you're describing too, Adam, it's like we haven't really had an opportunity to see that crossover because the first major sort of TV show from them in this new era was kind of The Mandalorian. I think everything else, like doing new Clone Wars, was just kind of an extension of Clone Wars, which was a show that originated in 2008. But The Mandalorian's coming out. The Mandalorian hit Disney Plus, and then like a few weeks later, or a few months later, The Rise of Skywalker came out, and that was the last movie. And then it was just Disney Plus from then on out. There's been no movie in theaters, right? Like since 2019 that is being worked on and then being released at the same time as these shows are being done. So it is a little bit of like, it doesn't feel unified, but then again, we don't exactly know what the movie side of the equation is like going forward. But I think that that's a really, really strong
Yeah.
like idea. I think it's while still not necessarily, because like you were saying, there is a group of people that do the fact checking in the universe that make sure that like it all
Mhm.
lines up with what they've established in canon. Because I'm sure Tony Gilroy came in and was like, well, here's my pitch. And I'm sure it's very different than any ideas they may have had. Same with Filoni, same with Leslie Headland, whoever else. So like
Yeah.
without necessarily squashing them, but more like, because when Tony Gilroy did the Andor show, through the canon, through the little factoids that he was getting, he learned about Mon Mothma and he went, oh, wait, that's her backstory? I can do a whole political intrigue story with Mon Mothma
Mhm.
based
Yeah.
on this little lore tidbit. So it would be really cool if when the new movies were coming out, I mean, Mandalorian's going to be the extension of The Mandalorian, right?
Mhm.
Mandalorian and Grogu. But yeah, the James Mangold movie, is that going to have to do with the rest of the
Right.
world? Like,
And that's the
yeah,
interesting thing about
yeah,
Star Wars too, is that, you know, the MCU is always moving forward. The DC universe, the new one
right.
at least, is always going to be moving
Hasn't
forward.
started.
The Star
Right,
Wars universe, we're 10,000 years here, we're 55 years here, we're 5 years before
right.
this, we're 10 years before that. So that also is a lot to sort of take on. So maybe it would even work if
Mhm.
you had different groups being in charge of different eras of the Star Wars universe, but they
Mhm.
all
Right.
have maybe one or two people who
Yeah.
kind of headline or lead it, so they can come together with the other creators to make sure that everything that is happening is cohesive story wise.
Mhm. Yeah.
Cool.
I think
Uh,
that's a perfect perfect, I don't want to say solution because I don't necessarily see a big problem. I think it's just more of a general problem in Hollywood and how productions work. They're so siloed. Everything just kind of
Mhm.
works on its own, right?
right,
I was
right,
just
right,
having
right.
this conversation with a coworker of mine. We were talking about how amazing Fury Road is, and that it feels like it's all done by one person made every decision on everything. When obviously there was a big team of people working on everything, right?
Sure.
But it felt like it was like a labor of love for everybody. And I do agree with you, Adam. I feel like if we had more of that cohesiveness behind the scenes, whether it is a parliament type of situation, obviously we can't have Dave Filoni answering every single question that happens, right? That's impossible.
Yeah.
But I do feel like there would be a great benefit to have a group of people, a producer, a department that just sits there and waits for questions and makes sure that like every single production comes to them, rather than like maybe hassling the director who maybe doesn't know everything about Star Wars, or maybe something like I don't know. It's a big. I think it would be a big ask to make happen, but I do feel like it would greatly benefit from a centralized thing across all media. Like not even just movies and TV. Like let's get the toys all on point. Let's make sure that there's everything's consistent on everything, on advertising, on all that stuff. So yeah, I think that's a good one. Did Dan Hector tell us if we went over any of Dan's suggestions too?
Oh, I won't. Oh, and neither will the chat know tonight. It's up to you guys to go watch Dan's video and find out. No, he didn't mention something like this, I don't think, but maybe somebody in the comments will correct me. Great comment here from Jeremy Barr, $10 super chat. Jeremy says, make all live action episodes at least 50 minutes or more in length.
Hey?
Also, more cohesion between all forms of media. Those are my two concerns. I feel like that's
Yeah.
Adam just said that out loud, basically.
Yeah.
Rashad Huri has 499 euros, I think is what it is. I'm not sure. Short
Those are
round show
pounds,
where
actually.
Yeah, I think those are pounds.
Pounds. So this will be British. Rashad Hari says, short round show where he liberates artifacts from colonizers and returns them to their rightful countries.
That's not a bad idea.
Cheerio. That would be,
Cheerio.
I mean, Kihi Kwan, he could be the continuation of that. That's
He
great.
really
I'm going
could
to
be.
change my,
You really could be.
I'm going to sneak one in. I was going to say an Indiana Jones animated series, but now I'm going to change it to Kihi Kwan live action adult short round show. His name is no longer short round. It's something else where he does exactly that, where he sort of carries on
You mean his real name?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Which I forget what it is. I think he does have it. His character has a Chinese name.
Of course he does.
Yeah. But it doesn't have to be that. It could be, it could be like Indiana is not really Indiana's real name either. It could be that sort of adventure hero name that he comes up with. That's my quick pitch. Augustine, over to you while we wait for some other super chats to
Whew,
trickle in.
man.
What's yours? Be
Given that
nice,
we now
bro.
solved the
Be
problem,
nice, bro.
given that we now solved the
Talk about,
problem of
"Woo!"
behind the scenes we solved the problem. No, I actually don't have a lot of issues with, I would say, the way that Lucasfilm is running. I feel like
You're going after
I feel
Bob
like they're
Iger.
doing
You're
their
going after
best.
Disney.
I feel like they're doing their best. I feel like there's a lot of oversight in creators, specifically directors, who could be brought into the series who are not. And maybe they have reached out to certain people that I love that maybe said no to all the projects. Or maybe, they're just like, I just don't ever want to touch a Star Wars series.
I already know who you're gonna say.
Adam's like, who are you gonna
guys already know.
say?
You guys already know. I don't even have to say who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But like, I would bring in Gendy. I would bring in Brad Bird. I would bring in Guillermo del Toro in some way, shape, or form or fashion. I'm never going to stop talking about those. Those three are like my movie gods. And so I feel like there needs to be a head of animation somewhere in in the process, because I feel like animators have such a unique way of telling a story. And the reason why I think Star Wars Visions to me is some of my favorite Star Wars, even though it's non-canonical. Visually they work, the pacing, the story, just like, I mean, that little clay animation one with the little girl who could like sense the force in the rocks and stuff, that one almost brought me to tears. And that's like no fighting, no conflict really, but it's about really kind of understanding the force. And so I feel like we need to bring in some new fresh blood from animation into the live action, and then have my three animation gods just kind of look over everything.
Guillermo's he's a stop motion guy. He is now a stop motion because of Pinocchio. So can you imagine if he did a stop motion animated Star Wars film? If Brad Bird directed a CG animated Star Wars film, and then Gendy did a 2D hand drawn animated Star Wars film.
Oh my God!
God! Come on, man!
That's like peak, absolute peak. Just and Felicia just told us this in the Discord as well. They just greenlit a season 3 of Primal.
Did they really?
Primal. The Primal animated TV series. Go and watch that. Do yourself a favor, Adam. You still have to finish that bad boy. Season 2 is gonna rock your world, dude. So rock your world, absolutely. Or maybe we'll do it for the channel. Who knows? Maybe we will. We still got a lot of stuff to do, so who knows?
Okay, so waiting for some other comments to come in. There's some excellent ones right now happening in the chat. I'm going to do another quick one, and then we're going to go over to Adam. I'll say Willow seasons 2 and 3. I don't know how. Like, and maybe this is more of a Disney being magically in charge of Disney and greenlight it, or maybe it's find a way to get it to make money by maybe releasing an episode in a limited theatrical run, or putting the first episode of Willow season 1 for free on YouTube, and all these kinds of things where it's like they're bigger problems than just this. It's more of how can streaming services be profitable enough to justify the costs of some of these shows,
dude. Release the Blu-rays.
That's another. That's a given.
Physical media, because money talks.
Yeah,
that's the way they're going to listen. If they have massive Blu-ray sales, they're going to be like, of course we're going to keep going, because that's how movies get their second life and cult following.
Agreed. So that's what I would do. I mean, they have put out like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Mando seasons 1 and 2. Some other Blu-ray steelbooks. I think that's it for Star Wars or season 1. They did that. But am I super slow motion or am I normal? Oh, I think I'm normal.
No, you're good. You're good.
Anyway, that's mine. Adam, back over to you. What's another thing you would do?
Oh man, there's so much stuff. I'm trying to think of like. I think one thing that I would like is so tough, because like Star Wars is in everything. It is everywhere. All over the place. Collectibles, toys, electronics, all kinds of stuff. So I'm trying to think of like what would be. I think one thing that I would like to see, and I think Rise of the Resistance is the closest thing we've gotten to it yet. A very, very immersive Star Wars experience for fans.
Mm.
And I don't know if that would be like like the Starship Cruiser or whatever it was, like a hotel experience, or if it's going somewhere that is a little bit more like Batu, or if it's like a cruise ship that is very Star Wars themed. But I would like to see something that wouldn't require me to exclusively go to a theme park to experience it.
Interesting.
And I don't know exactly what that would entail. Like, I don't know if maybe on the property of Lucasfilm they would have to build something. But I would like something that is a very unique Star Wars experience. But I would also like something that is somewhat of like a Star Wars museum or archival thing. Like, I know they have Rancho Obi-Wan. I don't know for sure if that's public, but I would like something that could give people more insight into the Star Wars legacy. And it's not just about the movies, but it's about the comic books, the collectibles, the making of Star Wars, something like somewhat of like a Star Wars
about the museum
exhibition.
that they're building here, right? The George
Here?
Lucas Museum?
Yeah.
LA?
They're
They're building a whole George Lucas museum.
That's here? That's in LA or is that in Chicago?
It's right
LA.
next to the what is it?
Academy
Peterson
Museum?
Anderson Car Museum?
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
It's right over by LACMA. Like it's this huge
Well, that's where the Academy
spaceship-looking
Museum
building.
is.
Okay, yeah. So it's over there, and I think it's going to be finished next year, and it's a George Lucas museum where it's going to be Star Wars. It's going to be
That's
you're
awesome.
getting your wish, Adam. Star Wars, Lucasfilm, and probably celebrating all of everything that they've done, not just Star Wars stuff. So
Right. So Indiana.
I think that's going to do good.
What would be great too is like to piggyback off of what Adam is saying is if they have curated this museum, I'm sure there's leftover stuff or some other there's just tons of stuff in that vein. What if that became almost like a touring museum show that could go to different cities around the US or even around the world?
Yeah.
And even coupled with that, there could be some sort of touring, smaller scale immersive experience, because like Adam's saying, not every family can go to Disneyland or go to Disney World or spend thousands of dollars to have that experience. But if you live in Indiana, if you live in Montana, if you live in Illinois, if you live in Texas, Star Wars could maybe bring something to your town for limited time only. I mean, they have shows that are like the How to Train Your Dragon show, and it's a big animatronic thing. So like maybe something that's almost like an arena show. But that seems really really cheesy, but more like a, hey, this is almost like a touring museum exhibit that you can go to and see stuff and touch some stuff and learn about the filmmaking. Also, we're going to do this cool walkthrough that we can build in every city that is super immersive. Maybe there's a bantha you can go and
Jedi
take a picture
Academy.
on. Something like that
Ooh,
like
that'd be kinda
kids
fun.
would freak out. Yeah, exactly. Something like that could be
Yeah, they
really
would.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think if it's
that'd be good.
exclusive, I think it's exclusive to theme parks. Like you're saying, it is kind of exclusionary. Like that Starship Cruiser experience, that was like $2,000 a night or something. Like,
Also,
man.
who's paying for
they
that?
canceled that almost immediately. Like
I know.
that doesn't exist
It
anymore.
failed hard.
Yeah.
It failed so
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I'm sure that there's a version of what we're talking about that can leave Los Angeles, tour around the US or the world, charge people a ticket price, but still be affordable enough that like it can prop up for 2 weeks in a city and make enough money to justify the costs and to get little kids really excited and they can go and buy a lightsaber and
Yeah.
maybe
Totally.
That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea.
be cool. That could be cool. I mean, David Taylor says, I want that Mandalorian experience that you guys got to see at Celebration 2022 to tour. That's kind of what I'm thinking of too. Like they just had a lot of the costumes set up and a lot of the puppets and like a bantha and like, you walk through and you can see their like Naboo starfighter that's just there. Like that stuff is awesome.
When I was a kid, the
And-
Museum of Art in
Yeah.
San Diego had a whole Star Wars exhibition, and it had like a full size pod racer with the full size
That's cool.
stormtrooper
Wow.
gear. Like, that kind of stuff.
And I'm sure
I think
you
would
were
be really
geeking
cool.
out. You were like
Oh
drooling
my god!
over there.
I was 12 and I
that'd be great.
didn't even know what to do with myself. Probably.
Guys, let's get this one out of the
Interesting.
way. Lucasfilm should re-release all the films in 3D. Duh, no
Oh, I
brainer.
mean,
Duh,
hello.
do that.
Duh,
Duh.
yeah.
Duh.
Absolutely.
Duh. Starting
Absolutely.
with. Sorry to the prequel lovers. Starting
Yeah.
with not Phantom Menace, but A New Hope. Then you go, 4, 5,
Well, they already
6.
have
You
the
put those
prequels in
in the
3D
theater.
anyway.
Right. So you do 4, 5, and 6 as these new converted 3D films. Release them in theaters, maybe one a year, and then you go 1, 2, 3, and then you go 7, 8, 9. and maybe squeeze the re-release of Solo and Rogue One in there. And hell, even just for shits and gigs, convert the first 2 episodes of Mandalorian, put them in theaters as a 3D event, and it's the
Oh my
Mandalorian
God.
in 3D. That'd be sick, dude. That'd
And
be
more
so
importantly,
sick.
put them on the fucking Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Agreed.
That.
This is going to be a
Augustine.
side note, Adam. This is a side note. We'll get back to the Star Wars chat. But I know, Adam, you posted that Magic Cameras just developed an immersive camera.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the future of immersive technology, Adam?
Oh, God. Well, I think the most frustrating thing about the whole thing is that it takes the only reason people are even humoring the thought of 3D is because of Apple Vision Pro, a device that I don't think is doing that well. I know people own it, but I remember when the 2-week mark was coming up, so many people had returned that thing. So I'm curious to even know what the numbers are in the Apple Vision Pro. Like how many people have kept up with it? How many people are still actively using it all the time? How good is the actual experience of watching movies in it? So to me, it kind of sucks that Blackmagic, it took basically Apple to be like new immersive videos for people to go, oh, 3D, oh yeah, to the point where I'm on Instagram and I post a comment on the Blackmagic Instagram account and I'm like, just call it a 3D camera, and someone has the audacity to respond to my comment and say, it's not 3D, that's different. And I'm like, stereoscopic literally means 2 images from 2 different angles that are united as one to create a 3D image. You fucking dummy.
Oof.
Anyway. So my thoughts are that it's cool and I'd love to use it. So if someone at Blackmagic wants to send us one, we'll shoot something.
Yeah. We'll do our whole podcast in 3D. Y'all don't
Oh
even
my
know.
God. Totally.
Y'all don't even know.
That's right. We'll promote
It'd
it
be great.
accurately.
Every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Imagine a cooking special in 3D.
That would be great. Yeah. And
See the
smell-o-vision.
steam rise.
So we could smell Hector's huevos con weenie.
Yeah. 4DX huevos con weenies.
Augustine, do you have any other ones you would do if you were at Lucasfilm? What else?
This one has already been stated in the chat, so I feel like I think Felicia said this one in the chat. It's completely severing the Anakin Skywalker series. Just move on. I don't care. I personally don't care about the Skywalkers anymore. I think it's been overworked. I think it's beating a dead horse at this point. I feel like there is
the look on Adam's face is like, my next pitch was a Hayden Christensen returns to Star Wars solo movie.
Yeah. Look, I love Darth as much as the next person. I love Luke. I love Leia. I love Han. I don't think I need any more content with them whatsoever. I don't think they want to be in very much more content, specifically Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford
that
could not
just
give any more
just
of a
like
shit
let
about
me go, bro.
Yeah.
Just like stop it already, right?
Well, I think I think that era and those characters, I think the future of a Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo, Darth Vader thing is just comic books.
Yeah.
Or video games or an animated series where this is one thing I'll bring up that Dan Merle did mention, and I disagreed with him. It's similar to the opposite of what you're saying, Augustine, is his pitch was they should recast Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, and Han Solo and tell stories in TV format or movie format with those characters in that era. I also harshly disagree with that. If I see Dan, I'll harshly disagree to his face. But his description was like, if they want to tell more stories with those characters, don't do a CG thing, but like recast them. And I'm going,
that I don't disagree with.
But if you want to tell more stories with those characters, do it in comic books or do it in an animated form and hire new actors to voice them.
Yeah.
I know lovely actors that can sound like Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, James Earl Jones, and so on. If you want to do that and continue the legacy in that way, that's great. But to me, that's the home for that, because comic books or an animated show or a video game is you can still sort of fill in the blanks, but those core 3 movies were kind of the biggest, most important stories of those characters. And I think that's sort of how it should stay.
Yes.
So Augustine, if you're saying don't do new live action stuff with those characters,
nothing.
I hear you. I would say do it and continue to do it in comic books. And Marvel just announced they're closing another comic book series of they have Star Wars and Darth Vader, and they've been doing it for like another 5 years, and they're going to end those, which took place between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and then they're going to pick it up and do new series. So it might be post Return of the Jedi. All that
Yeah.
stuff is fair game. All that stuff is cool. Like all that content is
Totally.
great.
I think,
You
and I
know,
think,
so-
I think, like you're saying, animation. Like, imagine if Gendy came in and they announced that Gendy's going to do a
Oh.
post Return of the Jedi
Oh.
Luke Skywalker story, or you
Come
know,
on.
between the events of
Come
Empire.
on.
And yeah, there's so much you
Come
can do.
on.
I
Know what I
would
want
be.
Gendy to take over? A Wookiee Jedi animated
Oh
series
my
where there's no
God.
talking. There's no talking whatsoever, just Wookiee sounds and Wookiee Jedis. Oh my God.
You know how sick that would be if it was like it started with the Wookiee on Kashyyyk.
You know what? You know what just happened under my desk?
I
boner.
can imagine.
Yeah. Whoa. Uh-oh.
He's raising that desk. Look at that parallax.
Oh my gosh. It's on full display. Full mast. Full mast. Can you imagine that, like that silent like jungle, you know?
Yeah.
And it's all like birds flapping by, and it's Kashyyyk, and it's just like Wookiees like at each other, and then one little Wookiee discovers he can use the Force because maybe he saves his like Wookiee parent or something, or Wookiee sibling, and then like the Jedi come and then he'll go on an adventure, or maybe not. He could just even stay in Kashyyyk his whole life and become sort of a defender of that would be so sick, bro.
Oh my God.
You put a
Best idea. I
you
need
put
to
a
stop
Chew-
saying
you
my
put a Chewbacca
ideas.
cameo in that. You put a Chewbacca cameo in that, bro. That's a cool bill
Yeah.
at the box office,
Yeah.
bro.
Yep.
Cool
Good
bill.
Lord.
Oh man. Yeah.
Wow.
What am I
that
supposed to
would-
do with my life
well-
now after that?
Yeah.
Did I just win?
Yeah.
Did I just win the podcast?
Jesus.
Let
Yeah.
me throw another one at you guys, though, that it might be a little bit in disagreement with what Augustine just said. But my
No.
thing was
You never disagree with
I'll
me.
kill you, Hector.
no. Yeah, no.
Not today. Yeah, no.
Billy D. Williams, Donald Glover, Lando movie that was supposed to be made. I would fast track that because I think that both of those actors in a flashback, future back story could work. And I think that it would be wonderful to do Billy D. Williams one more time, maybe retire the character in that regard. Do we need to pick up the threads that were in The Rise of Skywalker with Lando Calrissian, older Lando, with like the young woman that they're hinting was his daughter? No, not necessarily, but just something with Donald Glover being Lando. Doesn't even necessarily need to have the young Han Solo in it, but something where both of those two actors can be in a story. And I don't remember exactly what the status was, but I would bring in some amazing American Black talent, or even like just Black talent from around the world to write it, to direct it, to produce it, just to come in and like make a really, really, really cool and awesome Lando story. That I would want to see, because I feel like, you know, Billy D wasn't able to be in episode 7 and 8. And, you know, Donald Glover I thought was great in Solo. That movie didn't hit as hard as it should have financially. So I'm like, that's what I would do. But again, I don't want
I don't hate that
Lando, Billy
idea.
D. Williams. Yeah, but I don't want a movie, an excuse to just be like, we got a Harrison Ford cameo in there again. He's going to show up again. And we, you know, I don't want that. I want to move away from the Skywalker saga, like you're saying, but just have kind of a Lando story. Okay.
I mean,
I think
Lando
there's-
can live on his own outside of the Skywalker
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
saga. Is that what
Yeah.
you
I've
were going
read
to say,
some
Adam?
great comics of his.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I don't think that a Lando Calrissian story, like I think it would be cool. And I don't know if this was like a fan thing or if like this was an official thing, but I thought I remembered reading somewhere that a cool way to intro the film is if it's old Lando Calrissian, whether he's playing Sabacc or whether he's like, you know, whatever he's doing when he's in his old retirement and stuff. But he's retelling the story of his youth, and then we would cut to Donald Glover as young Lando Calrissian.
Totally.
And I would do it. I would do it long before he meets Han Solo. Maybe it's the first time he acquires the Millennium Falcon, and we get to learn who he is as a character. And even if the ending doesn't end where Solo begins, that's fine.
Right.
You can leave it a little bit open ended. And maybe if they decide they want to make another movie, then, you know, if you're like, okay, we're going to do just one more and that's it. Or if they are deciding it's just the one film, then I think that the events of like the ending of the film could get close to where Solo is, but I don't feel like the Star Wars stories need to feel obligated that the ending has to butt up exactly to where we meet the
No, no, no,
character
no,
in the
no.
next
Right.
part of the story.
Nope.
Right.
Nope.
But yeah,
Or
I think
yeah,
Orlando's story
right.
is I'm totally open to it because it doesn't have to be connected to the Skywalker story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Adam, Augustine, you guys got any other ones you want to rattle off? Anything else you're thinking of?
I think that they're going to figure this out at some point, and I don't know when or how or what they're going to do, because I think it is a little bit of a interesting character because of the way
Mhm.
we're progressing through time, but I would like to see them do something with Indiana Jones. I just don't know what. Truthfully, I don't know what.
Okay.
Again, I pitched animated series. I think would be the easiest
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
Even that you could do an anthology and kind of bounce around in time with different episodes.
Mhm.
Cause like,
Mhm.
man, going up and down Indy's life is just, have you guys seen those images from a comic book artist who's been posting Indiana Jones drawings as though they're covers of like graphic novels or comics, but they're in the style
I
of
have not.
Tintin? Have you
Mm-mm.
guys seen any of these on Instagram? They're in
You
the
need to share
style of
those, Hector.
Tintin,
Share those.
Oh,
which
I'm
is
looking
those
at it
on
now.
Instagram.
Wow.
which is one of the coolest styles. And what he does is he tells stories all throughout Indy's life, and he's
Mhm.
even taking into account the fact that in the 1990s, Indiana Jones lives into his 90s, and he has an eye patch. So like
Mhm.
he's even like, so this is after Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So he's even doing the sort of transition from the Dial of Destiny into when he's this old man who has this eye patch.
Mhm.
He was
Mhm.
used in the opening and ending for the Indiana Jones TV show. It was an older actor with an eye
Mhm.
patch being like, let me tell you the story. So, but then he has Indy teaming up with Tintin, teaming up with like Logan Wolverine during World War II, teaming up with all these characters throughout kind of the multiverse of like literary characters or comic book characters or
Mhm.
whatever. And it's just so good. And it feels like it nails the sort of vibe of Indy that even if it's not even if something like that were not in the Tintin style, because they can't really do that because that's Tintin,
Mhm.
but like
Yeah.
that sort of pulpy, like you could tell stories in literally every decade with every age of Indiana Jones. Thank you, Adam Murphy is the artist. Yeah, great artist.
Yeah.
um uh, yeah, so I think that's a potential to do something with Indy and have it be really impactful, but to not like be like, we got Harrison Ford again and it's another movie and it's live action and this and
Yeah.
that. But like somebody mentioned, Kihi Kwan, if he started in a short round show or movie, give him a movie. If Harrison Ford wanted to cameo in his old ass age for like a final scene in that, to be like, hey,
Mhm.
Shorty,
Mhm.
good to see you.
Good
And then
job.
his
Good
character's
job, kid.
done.
Yeah. That's it.
It would be like, what
That's
a
all you
great way for
need.
that character to go out.
That's
Yeah,
all you
yeah,
need.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
specifically
yeah,
for
yeah,
Harrison Ford. Like that's all he would probably want to do. That's
yep,
all you need.
yep. And the short round
I
show
don't
could be set in the 70s or 80s or whatever. Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah.
this is going to be my last word, but I feel like I don't know if I have much more to say after this. But
Go.
I will say, I feel like not just in Star Wars, but kind of in cinema in general, I feel like there is a certain element missing that I felt like growing up in the 90s kind of had it, like that sense of adventure, the sense of like the excitement of not knowing what's coming in this movie, right? Like when an Indiana Jones movie was coming, you knew it was going to be some wild cool stuff. I feel like maybe the the Star Wars franchise in particular is really lost in the sauce at this point, as far as bringing that sense of a bold new frontier of like space and new aliens and like
Yeah,
adventure and the universe. And I'd like to see more of that jump in. I feel like The Mandalorian had that. I feel like the Mandalorian season 1 specifically had that. And then by season 2 and
Yeah.
3 became a little bit more formulaic. But I feel like there is a lot more of that you can tap into. And it could be a combination of things like the story. I feel like the music really had a lot to do with
Mhm.
how the movies played out early on. Like the scores, they were just different back in the 90s. Maybe a little, maybe you could call them a little bit cheesy, maybe like a little predictable, but there was something about like the specific sounds and like things that they used that just gave you like this sense of like I don't know, like you were about to see something you've never seen before,
Yeah.
and most of the times it delivered. Like there was a lot of really good stuff that came out in the '80s and the '90s, and Wesley's right. It had some kind of like a weird magic to it. I don't know if it's reproducible, but I feel like it's a combination of like obviously Hollywood changing, the effects and the production kind of changing,
Yeah.
everything becoming super I don't know, like kind of taking it away from the artist and putting it more in like the business sense. And I feel like that's kind of really hurting the industry as a whole. But there's just some weird magic that needs to be recaptured again. I don't know if Star Wars is the franchise to do that. I don't know if it's far too
Right.
late for Star Wars to be that person or those people, but I feel like there is a magic that needs to be rebottled.
Yeah, and that
I don't
that is
even
a
know how to like catch that.
yeah,
Go, Adam.
that is a really good point because it is a little bit of a lightning in a bottle. Like when Star Wars, George Lucas couldn't sell Star Wars to a single studio.
Right.
Couldn't.
Right.
Exactly.
Nobody wanted it because they're like, this
Yeah.
is too weird.
It's
too out
weird.
there.
It's too weird.
Yeah,
It's
too
for
weird.
nerds, bro.
Yeah. Not even that. Like it was just like the concept and the idea was so out there in 1975 or 74, whenever he sold it. One fucking guy in Hollywood was like, I'll take a risk on this. I'll take a chance. Sure, why not?
I'll try. Yeah.
But I think, and I think there's something about Star Wars, the original trilogy, particularly The Empire Strikes Back, that I think was even lost in the prequels. To be totally honest, there's this like mysticism and this mystery and this sort of like magic, like you're saying, this magic to it that has not been recaptured. And I think a lot of that is because Star Wars is such a business now, more than I don't want to say more than a creative entity, because there still is creativity in it, but it is primarily driven
it's
by
definitely
economics.
It's risk averse for sure,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, in my opinion, in the past few years or since Disney took over and has started making its own Star Wars with Lucasfilm, anytime it feels like we do get a little bit of the taste of the risk, that's risky and weird, and that fans, that these adult grown men are like, nope, that's not what it is. I want these stories to
Babies,
feel
Hector.
like they're
babies. Remember?
they're babies, said Shredder. But they wanted Star Wars to feel like they're reading an encyclopedia entry out of a Star Wars encyclopedia, or like video game stats, or like, that you go, oh, whoa. Even the fan base has lost that idea of that this is a weird thing. And maybe it's because a lot of these babies first watched Star Wars when they were really underdeveloped, children, where the weirdness was just like, you don't clock that it's weird. And then when you get older and they give you another weird little alien thing, you're like, this is stupid and dumb. And you're supposed to go,
Have you seen
like
the
the
cantina
original
scene?
stuff was. Exactly, man. There was just a guy in a devil costume. Like, that stuff is weird. And because of because of that obsession with the lore, even that devil guy that I just mentioned has an entire backstory.
Yeah.
And it does take
gives a
away
fuck?
it takes away from the mysticism and the weirdness. I love that stuff. I'm sure more than the next person. I'm sitting in front of Marvel and comic book and Star Wars encyclopedias. Like, I love that stuff. But when it comes to, that's not how a movie works, man. That's not how a story should work. It's cool that little devil guy has a name. It's cool that dude that ran by with the ice cream maker in Empire Strikes Back became such a meme. He has an entire backstory. I love a glup shitto as much as the next person, but when fans have deemed that to be the important aspect of this franchise of Star Wars, it completely, I think, like, it ruins it for them. And and then they have to keep squawking, and it ruins it for people around them and the internet. And it ruins it for Lucasfilm that they're trying to put stuff out. And this is the feedback they get from the loudest, most obnoxious minority of people.
Right.
And then Lucasfilm goes, oh, shit. We freaked out. People didn't like The Last Jedi. Well, hang on a minute. Hang on. Okay, we should make it so that we're undoing stuff that we said in Last Jedi. That'll make them happy. And it does nothing. And it makes it like gutless and risk averse instead of like bold and daring and risky and stuff. So I agree. And then having said all of that, here's my next pitch.
Oh,
Maybe you
God.
guys are going to hate me for this. Well, actually,
More Luke
If
this
you
is
say
funny.
there's a Bulba live action
No.
series, I will choke you to death.
No. Trials of the Wilds has €2, I think, not £2, but €2. Says give Guy Ritchie a Star Wars gangster Underworld series. I will say I like where your head's at. I'm going to say no to Guy Ritchie. I don't think that dude makes good products when working for Disney. See Aladdin. Sorry.
Okay.
Like, sorry. If Guy Ritchie wants to keep making rated R gangster shit with British dudes that cuss and are really racist, do that for the rest of your career, bro. That's fine. Just because he's good at gangster stuff over here, I don't think is going to translate to Star Wars Underworld. But I do think that Star Wars Underworld should be a show. It's kind of a no-brainer. It felt like that was kind of going to be what The Mandalorian was going to be, but then The Mandalorian is its own thing, and it's very mythological, and it's Mando. So, yeah, dude, the Underworld of Coruscant. Kind of like Andor, but just criminals.
Let me get Star Wars Sopranos, please.
Yeah, and that could work. And it could still be I think they could still make something really like Andor, I think, pushes the limit to like, can a child watch this? And I'm going to say no. Also, I think a child would be bored by Andor, which is fine because there's 8 million other
Just
Star Wars
different,
things for the kid to watch. It's just different. But I think that's the limit of like, you get something that level. It's not quite rated R. It's PG-13. And it's probably a boring or hard PG-13 versus like a soft PG-13. And I think that could work. And I think that something, in the Coruscant underbelly would be great. No Hutts, no Jabba, but I wouldn't mind it if there was some sort of,
I'd be okay with Hutts,
you know what I would,
but maybe no Jabba.
Because if you do Hutts, you have to do Tatooine, you have to do Jabba, you have to do, because that's like his home base. But Augustine, you said earlier, Guillermo del Toro should do Jabba the Hutt stop motion animated.
Oh my God.
With all the weird little aliens he wants to do, all the little creatures,
Yeah.
But the whole thing is stop motion animated, including the humans characters in a movie. That's what I would do. A stop motion animated movie called like El Espinazo del Jabba. That's what I'd call it. And Guillermo would crush it. El Laberinto del Jabba the Hutt.
El Laberinto del Jabba.
That would be great. But can we touch Jabba? Yes,
cool.
we can. No,
Yeah,
I'll give you another one. This is what I think you guys are going to rag on me for. Here's my other for real pitch. It's twofold. I want to see more support for the sequel era. I want to see an animated show, maybe headed by Dave Filoni himself, because he's an expert in this, that helps build out the mythology of the era and makes things make more sense. In Clone Wars, it was easy to go, well, we're going to do a cartoon show. It's going to be about this 3-year period that takes place between the movies where a bunch of shit happened. That's the cartoon show. Little trickier to do with the sequel era. I guess it would have to be before Rise of Skywalker, after The Last Jedi, which I think is just a year canonically. But I would do something there, animated, bring in some other voice actors to be like, you're Rey, you're Finn, you're Poe. Let's tell some stories. Let's flesh out like friendships and relationships and all the stuff we didn't get to see. I would love. My second pitch is Rey's getting a movie. I think it's awesome. I'm hoping it's really, really good. I don't want it to be Skywalker Saga Part 10. I want it to be Rey's own thing. I would want, no matter what it takes, you have to hire the right peoples, the correct creatives. I would do, no matter what it takes, I would get John Boyega back as Finn in a Finn movie, and Oscar Isaac back as Poe in a Poe movie. Doesn't have to be immediately, be later down the line, but I would work towards, I want to bring in those two actors to reprise those roles in a spin-off. Rey gets one, I want Finn to get one, and Poe to get one. And I want both of those actors to be as stoked about it as seemingly Daisy Ridley's pretty excited about this movie. She's pretty excited about it. So
I think, truthfully, I would personally prefer it if you just put John Boyega and Oscar Isaac in the same movie together.
I would be open to it, but it's a two-parter.
Like a buddy,
and they're fucking
like a buddy, like a buddy space adventure with those two, and BB-8.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that'd be so fun.
Yeah.
And Rey has a cameo, but it's like them two and Chewie and the Falcon.
It's like the introduction of the movie has all of those characters, and then they go off on whatever mission, and maybe it's an important mission that revolves around whatever Rey's movie ends up being, and when it ends,
That's a good
it ties
point.
into Rey's film. Like that could be cool.
And again,
That would be
and again,
fun.
this goes back to your initial point, Adam. Like something like that could tie into, if they are doing an animated series set around the
Mhm.
same time, tie that shit in together. The same way
Yeah.
we were watching Bad Batch seasons 1 and 2, and we were like, this really feels like it's trying to connect to everything, trying to connect
totally.
to the
Mhm.
sequel
Yeah.
series where like Palpatine comes back and cloning, trying to connect to Andor. Like it really
Right.
felt like Bad Batch was trying to do that. So
Totally.
Mhm.
I think that would be
Yeah.
great. But yeah,
Yeah.
man, if Finn and Poe kiss, if that's what John Boyega and Oscar Isaac are going to do that shit. Give them 2 movies. Ray gets 1 movie, so they each basically get a movie.
Right.
But if they don't want to do that, if they don't want to kiss and hold hands, they could do that buddy adventure. God,
could
that
just
would be
be
so good, dude.
fun.
Yeah.
Those
If it
characters are
was
so
those
good.
two
That's fun.
with BB-8 and Chewie,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
my God.
And C-3PO, you got to have C-3PO because,
Come
dude,
on.
they hate C-3PO. I love how much they hate C-3PO. They're always telling him, like, hey, C-3PO,
be
shut
so
the
funny.
fuck
Shut
up.
up.
And he's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Hey, dude,
oh, dear.
shut your mouth.
Pardon me.
dear.
Pardon me, sir.
What am I doing out here?
It would be
C-3PO,
incredible.
you got to do me a favor. Shut the fuck up, buddy. Oh, dear. That's my favorite dynamic in Star Wars. When
is.
everybody tells C-3PO to shut the fuck up. It's the best. Because
Oh, that's so funny.
R2-D2's like, I've been saying that. I hate this guy. I've been saying that since.
I've been saying that for 47 years.
Yeah.
This dumb motherfucker.
Yeah. It's so funny.
I think I
funny.
have two more pitches.
2 more?
um,
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me
And they're
squeeze
pretty-
this one in here before you
Yeah,
get,
yeah, yeah.
but and then you can close us out with your 2 pitches. This is a great comment. Droid Herder, $10 super chat says, mix Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Do a live action Dr. Aphra show where she runs around uncovering
Oh, yeah.
ancient Sith artifacts.
There you go.
I don't think we've
That's
talked about this character.
genius.
Dr. Aphra is an all-timer Star Wars character.
Yeah.
I've read a handful of her comics, like her story arcs.
Mhm.
I think she's fantastic. I would love to read everything that she's in, but if they were to do live action Dr.
Holy
Aphra,
shit. Now I
that's
want that.
that's something
Yeah.
that can be sidestepped to the main sort of Skywalker story, and you don't
Mhm.
have to have any Skywalkers in it. She's just doing her thing,
Totally.
but it's at the same time as A New Hope, Empire. That would be dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Adam, what are your 2 pitches?
My one pitch is to, and I doubt this will ever happen, but it's to completely eliminate the ability to work on projects set between episode 1 and episode 6. And either you go totally
I like
into
that.
the past,
I like that. Yeah. I
or
like
you can shape and
Yeah.
define some of what happens after,
Mhm.
basically like 20 years
After the
before the
Acolyte.
Force Awakens.
Yeah.
To
Okay.
flesh out how the resistance really rises, and then go completely into the past. I think it would be so interesting, and I think that is where Lucasfilm could get really creative with telling Star Wars stories where no one can have any input because the history doesn't exist. There may be some loose history. You know, there may have been things mentioned throughout comic books, maybe some official guides reference things like,
Yes.
roughly 5,000 years in the past, here's what could have happened. But to actually
Yep.
have stories that take place so far beyond what has been explored in comic books and storytelling, live action or animation, where everyone is a first time, it's an entry point for everybody. No one can have an opinion about it because if they do, hey, this is totally uncharted territory. We've never stepped into this realm of Star Wars. So whatever opinion you have about that ship or that vehicle or the look of that creature, it's undefined. It's completely new. So you can't be mad about it. My second pitch would
I
be I
agree.
would love to see Lucasfilm do completely new and original stuff. More things like
Yes.
Red Tails.
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
things giving opportunities to dive into other genres. They have industrial light and magic at their fingertips. They have some of the most intricate and some of the best technology in the entire industry. Let
Yeah.
people use it for
Yeah.
other things other than Star Wars, Indiana Jones,
Yeah.
and whatever other
Horror
properties they
movies,
own.
no-brainer. A horror movie
holy
would be a
shit,
no-brainer.
man. God.
You know,
Mhm.
the types of
Yeah.
things that feel like Gremlins or Ghostbusters kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah, they need to
Yeah.
find. Teku66 in the chat says, "What did I miss, brother? You missed
Everything.
a lot.
Whole lot of nothing, Mr.
Whole lot.
Whole lot of
Stop
nothing.
motion cryptid hunting movie or series from the void between. That's a very specific pitch.
That'd be pretty
I love
rad,
it.
though.
That's very good.
That would be pretty rad.
That would be, again, that's industrial light and magic would be great. And to your point,
Mhm.
Adam, about going beyond anything that they've ever come up with, seems like the Ray movie is going to be that because it's supposed to
Mhm.
be 10 or 20 years after the rise of Skywalker, which is
Right.
really exciting. Star Trek did the same thing in the past couple years. Okay, we started Star Trek Discovery, but Star Trek Discovery's third season, they jump 900 years in their future, which is the furthest
Mm-hmm.
in the Star Trek timeline. And it's really cool because at the same time they were doing that, they were doing TV shows that were like, they brought back Patrick Stewart and they did Picard. So they're doing stuff that's like in the eras that you're familiar with, animated things and live action things. But the TV show Discovery was now the furthest point in the future. So they're like, ship design was sleek as hell, dude. It was all new stuff. We were like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
they really went like hundreds of years past what we
Yeah.
were used to in the
Yeah.
TV era. And that goes back to, that's what's great about Star Trek and Star Wars, right? The original Star Trek, when they brought it back as a new iteration of a TV series in the 80s with Patrick Stewart and everybody, it was called The Next Generation. They jumped like
Mm-hmm.
115 years in the future. It wasn't just Kirk or Kirk's kids. It was like, boom, new everything. It still had ties to the original. Star Wars, they did, the fact that they even did prequels is really, really revolutionary because it told us we're gonna, the story, but we're still gonna have all of these eras that we can explore storytelling in and open
Mm-hmm.
them up to bounce around constantly. It's almost preferred that way to experience the story by like release date versus chronologically, almost. But it is
Mm-hmm.
fun to try to experience that story chronologically and loop in the novels and the comic books and all the stuff, and you're like, oh, this is so cool. It's all intricate. But Star Wars and Star Trek have done that. Star Wars needs to do it again, and it looks like the Rey movie is going to do it. But yeah, those are some excellent pitches. Excellent pitches there. Yeah, no matter
Mhm.
how
I dig
far
it.
ahead Star Wars
Approved,
jumps,
no
it's still a
notes.
long time ago, says Gnome saying. I agree. No matter what, it's still
And that's
Yeah,
the
for
What are they
advantage
gonna
that they
say,
have.
like,
It's a fantasy.
last
you can
week
do
in a
anything.
galaxy far, far
You
away.
can do whatever
No.
you want. Yeah.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
do whatever you
Literally
want.
do whatever
so,
you want.
yeah,
Adam,
I'm waiting.
I think
I'm
when
waiting.
when
Yeah,
you
go
were
ahead.
saying to not when I said to cut away from from like the Anakin and like Luke Skywalker saga, I think that's maybe
Yeah.
more what I meant is just like don't do anything in between the projects that we already have at this point.
Yep.
Like we're good. We're A-okay.
Yep.
Let that live as
Yep.
it is. And then we move on from that. Sorry, I interrupted you, Adam. I just wanted to
No,
clarify
you're
that
good.
in my
But
head
yeah,
because
I
that's
get
what
that.
that's what I needed to say.
And like we're saying too, here's one last thing that Dan Merle brought up, and I do agree with him, where he really talked about like before every project, Lucasfilm should really answer the question like why? Why does this need to exist? And just
Yeah.
now, as we were brainstorming, we were like, oh, but if they did a Dr. Aphra series, we were like, that's no Luke, that's no Darth Vader. Do it off to the side. She can have her own thing. It's still
Yeah.
congruent to what we've experienced, but we, I think, could already come up with like the why for something like that could be made. Whereas if people just want like live action Luke Skywalker again in a movie or a TV show, we're like, no, like the why is
Yeah.
that shouldn't exist.
Why?
The answer to that is
Yeah.
that shouldn't exist. Find new characters, find new stories, go into the future, go into the past. I think we're getting that with this Rey movie and the James Mangold movie that's supposed to be like the origin of the Jedi. I'm very interested in that, dude.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in that. So
Yep.
yeah, great episode. Great app. Dude, we crushed it. We nailed it.
I think we
solved it.
reinvented Lucasfilm, and
Yeah.
I think we just need to be put in charge. That's all.
Yeah,
No, I say that
yeah.
in jest because I know they listen. There was a guy in here a couple weeks ago saying that they actually watch our stuff. So
They're great.
Just kidding.
And
Just kidding. I don't really mean
yeah.
that.
I really have enjoyed most of the things Lucasfilm has made over the last 50 years, 45, 50 years. And there's definitely things that I think hit much better than other things. Like I even did enjoy the last Indiana Jones movie. Like I still think that the original trilogy is probably like, I mean, actually maybe the first one, the second one are my favorite still. But I think that it is okay for Lucasfilm to go and venture outside of what they're kind of used to. Like they were literally born out of the creativity that was based on nothing before. And I think now they need to maybe like tap into that a little bit again to just try to make something new. And even if it's within the same universe, like we're saying, explore uncharted territory, explore the unexplored. Please, for the love of God, don't make a Jar Jar Binks show.
I think you're right.
Give me a Gungan Jedi. I'll take a Gungan Jedi, but no Jar Jar Binks.
It's hard to imagine for us at our age, a world without Star Wars.
Yeah.
But there was a
Yeah.
time before this franchise existed.
Yeah.
There was a time where this franchise was for the weirdos and like the guys who were just kind of like thought of as a nerdy kind of thing, and it changed the world. Legitimately, the first 3 movies changed the world, and it changed science fiction, it changed movies, it changed everything.
Yeah.
I think the things that we're talking about are difficult because we're in a post Star Wars world. I don't think they're impossible, but
Yeah.
it is giant shoulders to stand on, basically. And so I think there just needs to be a little bit more curation in the content that comes out. They could be going in the way of just oversaturating the market, kind of like Marvel did, and now they're kind of stepping it back, right? They're just like, okay, let's kind of reassess and really kind of figure out what the message of Star Wars is going to be for the next decade. Because obviously the franchise is going nowhere. It's still making a ton of money. And I feel like there just needs to be a reconsolidation, just like you said at the beginning, Adam. Like some force, some creative entity needs to take care of the center of it all and have it just spoke out from there, and then everything will kind of benefit once the core of it has kind of been solidified and they know the direction that they're going to go in.
Yeah.
And whether it splits in the future and the past, as long as they agree that that's their direction, I'm like, cool, go for it, because that's I want to see. I'm never going to abandon the Star Wars franchise. I feel like there's so much potential in everything they do, and so I'm just waiting for that thing that's going to make me scream like when I saw Mjolnir get picked up by Cap.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I need
yeah.
that kind of moment back in my Star Wars. And so far,
sure.
it's not there yet. But hopefully, it'll get there one day.
Yeah. We'll see.
That's going to happen when we get that 2D animated Gendy Tartakovsky Wookiee Jedi that like grabs a lightsaber. That's going to be the moment.
Come on, man.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
think that's, I
God.
think that's the one. Ah, yeah.
Anyways, that was a good conversation. That was really
it's
fun.
a good time.
It actually really made me think about it. Really forced me to think about Star Wars in a different way, and to try to think of something that is a little bit different. Because I feel like if I ran Lucasfilm, you know, you could have the most surface level sort of answers for a lot of stuff.
Sure.
But to really sit there and think about like, well, what if I actually did run the company? Like, what would I do?
Right.
And I'm sure like there's people who are much more well versed in business who probably would have different business strategies for Lucasfilm too. But
Sure.
for me, I'd be
But
more
it ain't a
interested in the
business,
creative
baby.
end.
It's art. It's
Yeah.
art. It's art.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Art. It's
Yeah.
art. But make sure you guys check out all of our reactions for The Acolyte. We have episodes 3, well, my reaction to episode 3, and our reaction to episode 4 on Patreon. It'll be coming very, very soon to YouTube as well. Check out everything else, and we'll catch you guys next week. Bye.
We might have to do this again for Marvel.
Oh,
the next
no.
one.